Have you ever wanted to create a radioactive pool in the middle of your base? Or maybe you want to surround your island with lights so it's well lit up at night? Have you always wished to have water powered street lamps? In that case, you need a sea pickle farm. Yes, finally, I have finished the sea pickle farm. It is now almost lossless. It is not entirely lossless, but it's like so close to being lossless that I'm almost calling it lossless, or I'm calling it almost lossless. You turn it on, and then watch the spam. The amount of sea pickles this thing generates is quite staggering. The hoppers here are definitely not sufficient to collect the loot if they were set up correctly. I'm just using the carpet mod with the hopper counters, so it's barely keeping up, but the normal storage system would need more hoppers than this. That's the short story of how much hoppers you need. This thing produces around, I haven't measured too carefully, but I think my numbers are around 67,000 sea pickles per hour. Of course, you would have to be insane to need that many sea pickles, but I don't know, maybe you have some crazy projects. As you saw in the intro, I did surround my survival world island with sea pickles, and also filled in a whole pool inside that island with sea pickles. And I'm using the street lamps. I lit up a tunnel with sea pickles. There's lots of uses. It's not so useless farm, but mostly it's a funny farm. It's a fun farm, and that's why I like it. And I've been working recently quite hard to finally finish this design so it's actually buildable without going insane, and I think this design is now correct. So the way this works is, at the bottom here, let's start with the simple bits first. At the bottom here, we have a very simple observer clock. The clock signal goes to this repeater, which is set to 2 ticks so that we don't punch out the blocks above. And then it goes into 2 sticky pistons. The sticky pistons are moving honey and slime up and down, and this is honey and slime. It's divided up because of push limit, so half of the blocks are being pushed are slime and half are honey, and it's a symmetrical, like rotational symmetrical setup of the blocks. The honey and the slime move these coral blocks up and down. Could be any coral. It doesn't have to be blue, of course. And every time the coral is up and every time the coral is down, it gets spammed with bone meal, and the signal to send the bone meal is just some redstone dust here. If you bone meal sea pickles that are underwater and on top of a coral block, then any coral blocks within this range, and you can see the range here, will generate sea pickles, or have a chance to generate sea pickles. Of course, it will not generate sea pickles every time, but have a good chance of generating sea pickles. And it's 1 block below or on the same level. 1 block above does not work. I just tested it because I actually had an idea that maybe if we did something like this, we could generate even more sea pickles. But no, it doesn't work that way. Because if it did work that way, this thing would be bone meal positive, and it would actually generate more bone meal than it consumes. Right now it's very close, but it's unfortunately not so, because otherwise this would be a great bone meal farm. Anyway, the sea pickles generate here. They float up in the water but mostly they just fly out to the sides, but those that don't fly really hard to the sides float up into the water. We have water sources here, 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 and in certain other places. I'm going to show you exactly how to place the water, because that's the only hard part about this farm. And the sea pickles fly out to the sides, and they fall down into these channels here. And here we have a water stream that starts in this corner. It picks up any loot, and the loot flies out here, and we can do whatever we want with that loot later. I recommend that you don't even attempt to build a proper storage system for this. The way I do it in my survival world is I just literally just stand here and fill up my inventory. That's the only reasonable loot system you can have for this thing, because, like I said, 67,000 sea pickles per hour. That would require, well, at least 7 hoppers, probably 8, maybe even 9 to be sure to pick everything up. So yeah, it also uses a ridiculous amount of bone meal. All these chests here are for bone meal, and one double chest of bone meal lasts less than 11 minutes. And as you can see, this looks like a very, very simple machine, and it is, but this is my probably 10th attempt to make it work properly. And every block here needs to be where it is. That's the key here. So in the description of this video, there will be a world download, and I recommend you to build it like this. Build this thing first. The entire enclosure, whatever loot system you want to connect, you need to connect here. And the only hard part about this machine right now is water placement. So let's see how that should be done. Start with the simple water streams for the items. That should be very obvious what to do here. Put one water here, one water here. Maybe I should have just removed these glass blocks and let the water flow naturally, but oh well. Like I said, here the sea pickles will fall out. Do whatever you want with them. That's not my problem. And now you have this thing here. Place a water source block on top of this glazed terracotta. This is very important. Now, you can place corals next to it, but you cannot place any other corals because these corals are next to water, which means that they will not die. Corals that are not next to water will die, so do not place any more corals, except this one. It needs to be a coral above, and this coral, the water source in here, is only to keep this thing alive. The other ones will have other water touching them, so it's fine. But this water source is very important to keep this coral alive. Bam, cover it up, we're good. We can place one sea pickle here, it will multiply very soon. And we place one water source here. Now the water has spread, and as you can see, we can place corals on top of every block of honey and slime, because now there will be water on top of them. Now this is almost enough. The problem we have now is that every time a sea pickle grows, because this one got spammed by bone meal and other sea pickles grow here, they will turn the flowing water into a water source. That means that eventually you will end up with a layer of stagnant water at this level, which means that the sea pickles that, well, generate in the middle, or so that the 8 blocks around the middle block, will probably just float up and stay there, and they won't move. And that's a problem, because we have to move them out of the way. And this is the part that took me, I don't know how many iterations of this machine to finally get it right. To make it this simple, because I have had many earlier versions of this one that, well, were not as simple and also had huge problems with the sea pickles flying in the wrong direction. And the trick is to have a water source here, 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 and here. That's it. Now the machine is completely ready to run. The reason why these glass blocks exist here is to prevent this glass block prevents this block from turning into a water source, because it would be next to these two. And same thing with all the other blocks on this level. And that prevents the water from being stagnant close to this dispenser. And the glass blocks above it are to prevent the sea pickles from flying up and landing on top of that glass block. The only sea pickles that might get stuck in the machine and not move out are the ones that end up exactly in the middle, floating above this one and floating around the whole of the dispenser. This happens very rarely, and I don't even know how many it is. I've been running this one for half an hour, and I think I picked up maybe 5 or 10 when I've been trying to pick those ones up, so it is relatively fine. That is the only losses that we have in this machine. You will of course need to feed it a lot of bone meal. These chests here are maybe enough for less than 45 minutes. So if you want an hour, you probably need even more. This chest and this chest are not here to store bone meal. They are just to distribute the bone meal between this hopper and this hopper so that we can feed this dropper with bone meal fast enough because, well, we are using bone meal twice as fast as hopper speed. So we're using bone meal at 18,000 bone meal per hour. And this dropper here is just pushing the bone meal into this dispenser. Technically, you might end up with a little bit of a problem if this machine is standing there and not doing anything and it's fully loaded with bone meal. And it is that this chest will fill up and now this side will have more bone meal than that side. And if you run it out of bone meal from these chests, it might just go at half speed. So if you're fussy about that, you can do something like this and that will work too. Or maybe something like this, whatever you fancy. I prefer it like this because I think it's just cool that you can move items one block horizontally by just putting them into a chest. And in case you build this and don't know what to do with the sea pickles, here is a very simple tip. Any wall, put ice on top, trapdoors on the sides. We have to be in survival for this. Punch out the ice. Sea pickles. Congratulations, you have now a water-powered street lamp. The world download will contain this machine, well, both of these machines and the street lamp as a bonus. Subscribe now and you will get more street lamps in next world download. Maybe not, I might probably forget it, but subscribe anyway, that would be nice. But the world download will contain this machine here without water and without the coral so that you can follow the instructions, or rather so that you can build it first without the coral and the water, so you can see all the block placement and then place the water exactly as I showed you earlier. There we go, it is now cleaned up. That should probably cover everything. It's not a very complicated farm. I just really like it. It's different. It's interesting. I have never seen anybody use a shifting floor that shifts up and down. Not that it's such a huge innovation, but it was really funny to develop. But that should probably cover everything. If you have any questions or ideas, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to answer everything I understand. And if not, thanks a lot for watching. And have a good pickling. Bye.